Hey YouTube, Occasional Marksman here. Going to do a little video for you on what I consider to be probably the best pocket carry, at least for me, that I've ever had. This is the Kahr PM9. It's a little on the pricey side, but the trigger on this thing is unbeatable. It's got a very, very smooth double action trigger pull, and it's just fantastic. This particular firearm rides in my pocket in this Uncle Mike's pocket holster most days. I know you say pocket carry is probably not ideal, and I agree with you, it's not. But with the clothing options that I have for my work environment, pocket carry is the best way to keep concealed, in my case. And the only other option would be not to carry at all, and which is not really an option for me. So, like I said, Uncle Mike's, this is a size 4. This particular one I think was for my Smith & Wesson 40 shield that I used to have, but the handle on the shield was just a little too long for pocket carry, although it fit the holster nicely. The PM9 just slides right in there good, fits nicely in my pocket. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this particular firearm. Before we do, we'll go ahead and make it safe. So, magazine release is in the typical spot that it would be here. Take out the magazine, and of course we lock the slide to the rear, and of course we do carry this particular pistol hot, one in the chamber. And the reason why is my own personal philosophy of readiness, carrying it in the condition ready to fire. Also because this particular model, the Kahr PM9, has such small geometry inside of it, the way that it was designed, that if you were to carry just the magazine loaded, and then in the event that you needed to deploy this to defend yourself, rack the slide, just about every time on these cars, the first round will nosedive and get caught on the feed ramp if you manually rack the slide. So even Kahr recommends to load this particular pistol to start with the slide locked to the rear, insert magazine, and then use the slide catch lever to put the first round into the chamber, and it will go fully into battery, no problem. But then, like I said, if you were to manually rack the slide and then manually release, the second round will go in no problem. But the first one, because of the pressure from the spring pushing up, and because of the design of the inside being so tight, the first round kind of wants to nosedive and hit that feed ramp, and it'll jam like 90% of the time. So what I do is I do what I've just done here, one hot in the chamber, then I drop the magazine out and put top off the magazine with another round. In this case, 2, because I had one in the chamber earlier. So let me show you what I was talking about here. So you've got the magazine, and that first round, you can see it kind of wants to easily push down like that. So when it's pushed up against the bottom of the slide inside of the pistol, that's what happens. When it strips it off, it kind of wants to, unless you go so quickly by releasing that slide catch. So like I said, what I'll do is I'll have one in the chamber like there is now, topped off magazine like there is now, put the mag back in, holster it, pocket carry it like this. Reliable every single time this way. Never had any kind of misfeeds, malfunctions, failure to feeds, failure to ejects, failure to fires, nothing with it carried in this condition. I know there's some people that say, well, why would you carry one in the chamber? That's totally unsafe. Look, this firearm is designed with no safeties. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and make it safe one more time so I can examine the firearm a little closer with you. So drop the magazine, lock the slide to the rear, take that round out. We'll put those completely out of the way so that they are not anywhere near us. And you can see, of course, empty. So now when you drop the slide, it's cocked, or half cocked if you will. It operates a little bit like a Glock. It's got a striker fire mechanism. So when you pull the trigger, it's a smooth double action trigger pull. And then it finally comes and clicks. There is no other safety here or here on the other side. There's no little trigger safety like you see on the Glocks, where there's a little thing that sticks out of the trigger to prevent the trigger from pulling back. The safety is that you just don't pull the trigger until you're ready to shoot. And like I said, since it is that long double action trigger pull, you have to really intend for it to go off in order for it to go off. But the thing about the Kahr trigger is it is smooth. I mean, it is like butter. There's no creep, there's no grit, there's no anything. It's just the smoothest trigger that I've ever felt in my life. I fell in love with it the first time that I picked one up at the local gun shop, and had to have one. So I actually traded, I had a Bodyguard 380 that I used for pocket carry, and I had a Smith & Wesson Shield in 40 caliber that I carried, that I intended for pocket carry, but it was just a little too large. And this one here is just perfect. The Bodyguard 380, while I'm on that really quickly, I wasn't pleased with it. The trigger pin kept walking out on it after about 25 or 30 rounds at the range. The trigger pin would start to walk out, and you have to get a little punch and tap it back in. And then also on the inside, of course, the Bodyguard 380 has the internal laser on the inside there. The little screw that's on the inside that keeps the battery door closed would come undone and then interfere with the action of the slide. I had to return it to Smith & Wesson, whose customer service was fantastic, by the way, but I had to return it to them to get it repaired. They actually replaced the entire lower receiver assembly on it and then sent it back to me, and I immediately traded it in towards the purchase of this. So anyway, very happy with this firearm. It is, I recommend it for anybody that needs to pocket carry and doesn't want to get stuck with a smaller caliber, because this is, of course, after all, 9mm. Other things I can say about this in comparison with other guns that are out there, Glock just recently came out with their Glock 42. The Glock 42 is essentially the same size as this. It's a little thinner in the slide area, the Glock 42, but essentially otherwise it is the same size as this, and this is shooting 9mm. This is what Glock should have come out with instead of the 42. I'm sure you'll see a Glock 43 that'll have 9mm, and it'll be direct competition with this Kahr PM9, and I may want one, but for the time being, this is the go-to, absolutely. Takedown is very, very simple. If you lock the slide to the rear, you'll see that there's a little half moon notch there, and then the slide lock lever, slide stop lever, comes out in much the same way that it does in a 1911. There's a button here that you push on the other side, and then you can remove it. So you line it up with the half moon lever, push the slide lock lever from the other side with your finger, and then take it out. It comes out no problem. Then the slide goes forward. You do have to pull the trigger, and the slide is removed. The rest of it from there is the same as most of these locking breech semi-automatic firearms. There is a recoil spring, a two-stage one, much like the Glock 4th generations, although it's not a captured spring. The spring itself is removable. And then, of course, the barrel lifts out like it would. This has an octagonal rifling barrel. Like I said, again, just like the Glocks. If you were to have the CM9, a cheaper version of this made by Kahr, it has a regular traditional rifling, but this is the octagonal rifling. Fantastic, great for accuracy. I mean, this little tiny barrel gets fantastic accuracy at the range, and certainly more than what you would need to rely on in a self-defense situation. As far as the inside of the slide goes, and you'll pardon the fact that mine's particularly dirty, it has all the safety features that you'd expect it to have. There is a firing pin safety here that's actuated by a lever that pops up on the inside of the lower receiver that allows the firing pin to move forward only if this is depressed. The firing pin basically is pulled back as you start to pull the trigger, and then it's released as you let go, as the trigger gets all the way back, and it protrudes through, of course, the breech face here. It's, you know, functionally on the inside of the slide looks a lot like the Glock or the M&P even. Very, very similar. Of course, a stainless steel slide and removable or driftable dovetail both front and rear sights. The sights on this is particularly interesting. You can see there's a dot in the front and there's a single dot in the back. So you can, probably making you crazy that you're looking at it upside down, but you just stack them up on top of each other like a lollipop on a stick. And I find that this particular one is pretty much right on. Just a dead center hold for all practical ranges. Gets you right where you need to go. So then inside the lower receiver, the trigger mechanism is far different than the M&P and then the Glock. It just has a very, very traditional sear that rotates very smoothly, and as the sear, I don't know if you can see that inside there, but as the sear rotates back and down, it pulls back the bar that's on the back of the firing pin, the striker, and it rotates back until it slips off of the striker and allows the striker forward. At the same time, you can see here this lever that comes up that actuates the firing pin safety. Of course, here you have the ejector, and of course on the side of the slide is the extractor. Again, functions similar into the Glock, in where you have to remove the extractor and the plunger that actuates the extractor. You have to take the back plate off of the slide. It's a little bit difficult to do. You need a small pick or a punch to push down the little detent that's there, and it allows you to take it off. And then the detent actually is the other side of the plunger for the extractor. So you, after you take the back plate off, you can slide the detent out, take the spring out, take the plunger out, and then the extractor just kind of comes out of its place. So again, very similar to the Glock in that way. Different than the M&P in that after you finish that, you can take out the striker, and then the firing pin safety comes right out, whereas the M&P, you have to remove the rear sight in order to take out the firing pin safety. So I find this to be a little bit easier to fully disassemble than the M&P, very similar to the Glock. All right. So reassembly, of course, is very, very simple. You just take the barrel, drop it in place as you would, and the recoil spring, of course, goes in the same way that you would expect it to go in. And the interesting thing about the lower receiver on this is that there is just two metal tabs for the railing, here and here, on the lower receiver. However, in the front it's all plastic, except inside of the dust cover here, the dust shroud, you can see that it's long metal rail in there, and those catch on the slide right here and right here. So it actually holds on there really well. It's actually a pretty tightly made gun. So this again slides on the back, and then you pull it back and line up the hole, push the pin through, and push it back through the half moon on the slide, and functions good. Lock the slide to the back, drop it forward, functions good, all set. So again, very happy with this particular pistol. I have another holster for it as well. This is a Galco inside the waistband tuckable holster. This particular one is made for a Glock 27, but by bending the little wires that are inside of here just a little bit more, it fits the Kahr PM9 nicely. You can see that it fits nice and flush here, and again, this is very similar in size to the Glock 27, except for the Glock 27 is a double stack magazine. This is a single stack, so the handle is much narrower. That's the only thing that you're dealing with. So this is good. For retention, it's not so great. It falls out. But remember, this is an inside the waistband holster, so when you have your belt pushing on it, it holds it in there pretty good. Not so easy to reholster because it's just so small. But this is a tuckable version. You can see it has the clip that pulls away from it there, so you can tuck your shirt in to cover it up if you have to wear a tuck-in shirt and don't have a cover garment. So that's the Kahr PM9. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe. There'll be other videos coming up shortly. I'm going to review some of my other handguns, do some range videos with these handguns. And please, leave your comments below. Tell me what you think. If you own a Kahr PM9, or if you've had the Bodyguard 380 and had some of the same problems that I had with mine, or tell me what your EDC, everyday carry option is for your pistol. Do you pocket carry? Do you avoid pocket carry? Do you carry with one in the chamber? Do you not? Let's keep the comments civil, everybody. Let's be polite. We're all just trying to learn together here. But I'd love to hear from you, all right? So, again, Occasional Marksman saying thanks for watching. Take care.